The Rebel Capitalist Show.
So what is the apprentice mentality? Is that what you're talking about, where you just want to kind of learn a skill as you're working? You've got that consistent income coming in, but then you start that side hustle that gradually grows, and then you're able to quit your business, or explain that to
So
me.
it's more so about having strong views and holding them loosely. So, for example, if you ask me what percent brain power do we use, if you asked me before I checked this thing, I would have said 10%, right? I don't know where I got that from, but I would have said it so confidently, right? Because I know, right? And then I just debunked my own stuff with data. And so I think it's just understanding that, hey, like it's okay to be wrong, and you're gonna be wrong more often than you're right. And it should be like that because you're constantly course correcting and you're iterating on data, that new information that's coming in. And so it's you can call it apprentice mentality, you can call it having a beginner's mind, because those that are stubborn stay stuck in their ways and they stay stuck. And so I'll give one example. There's one person in Clubhouse. He is you know, he's well known, but his business seems to be stuck. And I was observing him in Clubhouse. I was like, oh wow, I get why he's stuck now, because he tries to control every conversation and he doesn't let people speak up. And
Mhm.
so, and that's the first time I've seen something like that. I was like, oh, it all makes sense now. I can see how he thinks. I can see how he talks. Okay, makes sense. He doesn't have the apprentice mentality.
Oh, that makes so much sense, doesn't it? It's incredible. You hear someone just talk on their own podcast, and it's just a monologue, and then it's such a different dynamic. Maybe when you see them behind the scenes actually interacting with other people, when it's not just them in front of the mic. Yeah, I never thought about that.
Well, see, I for me, I try to act well, I try to act as stupid as possible, so that way I get as much information from people as possible. So I
Yeah.
just try to approach things from like I just don't really know that much, and in the grand scheme of things, we don't really know that much. And in the real big grand scheme of things, you and I, we're not even a speck in the universe. Like we're not even the world's been around for billions of years. We're not even going to be around for like nothing, right? And so we just gotta understand that we don't know much and approach it from that mentality and enjoy what we're doing.
Yeah, the humility I think is so huge. I was just talking to Lynn Alden last night about an interview Stan Druckenmiller just did with Goldman Sachs. And one of the things that we were talking about is how even Druckenmiller, I mean, arguably the best investor, at least within his time frame. He usually invests about 6 months or so is his max. So he's not like a huge long-term guy like Warren Buffett, but within that, we'll call him a swing trader or something. Uh, Arguably the best in the last 30 years. And when you hear him talk to Goldman Sachs, he's talking about all the bets he's got set up, the major allocations in his portfolio. And he's like, well, I've got the long end of the yield curve, because if the Fed does this, then I'm going to win there. And then he's like, but then I've got commodities over here, which is a completely different bet, because if I'm wrong on that, then I'm going to be right over here. But the whole time he's acknowledging that, I'm most likely going to be wrong over here. I'm most likely wrong here, most likely wrong here. I'm wrong all the time. I'm wrong a lot more than I'm right. But my strategy is so darn good, and I'm hedged so well, and I ride my winners, I cut my losers, and I know how to put the position size, that he always comes out ahead. But the whole point is the humility there, where you take that to the opposite side, where most of the retail investors, that are betting on XYZ stock or cryptocurrency, that they have no humility whatsoever. None. This is a for sure bet. And if you don't get on board, then you're just stupid. And it's just the difference
A lot of
between that
ego.
apprentice mentality, I guess.
Totally. Yeah, there's a lot of ego, I think. Especially, I mean, the ones that you see that actually have humility in the world of investing, those are the ones worth following, right? The
Mm.
Charlie Mungers, the Warren Buffetts, the Druckenmillers of the world. They come from like I'm just trying to learn more, right? Howard Marks, I mean, the Oak Tree investor, I get that vibe from him as well. So
Yeah, all the greats are like that. I mean, they all will acknowledge that they're going to get it wrong more than they're going to get it right, and they're always trying to poke holes in their own theory, and they try to make sure that they're never in an echo chamber. And I think that's something that's very important in business as well. That if you've got an idea, okay, great, let's go for it. But you want to get second opinions. You want to try to, how could I be wrong here? And then once you come to the conclusion that you're correct, then you move forward. But then you always got an option where you can pivot and do something else, So
That's a big thing that you're talking about, and it's part related to the book too. So I talk about power ups. Part of power ups might be habits, but the other part is mental models. And so mental models, Charlie Munger always talks about inverting, and that's basically what you said. What's okay? I might have this point of view, but what's the reverse? Can I argue against it, and can I argue it better than anybody else can? Right. And so these are all little tools that you get in your tool belt. And yeah, some power ups you have to continually refresh. Like if you're working out in the morning, you're meditating, whatever. Some you just kind of get to keep, right? But the whole thing is, sure, there's 15 power ups in the book, but that's just the very beginning. It's not even scraping the surface. So
yeah. So let's talk about routines. I see that in your book as well, and I think that's extremely important, especially when you're trying to scale a business. But tell me about what that chapter in the book.
yeah, I think at the end of the day, if we go back to compound interest again, well, if you compound your health, you compound your diet, you compound, how well you rest when you go to bed. So I'm a sucker for sleep optimization. All these things stack up. And then the way when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, okay, today I got this interview with George. I fill out my journal first. So there's like this gratitude thing at the very top, 3 things I'm grateful for. So those of you that I might be losing right now, oh, this is cheesy, Eric, whatever. It actually helps because when you're grateful about something, you can't be angry, right? Try it. Try being grateful about something and then angry. You can't do it. And then 3 things I'm going to do today, 1 affirmation. That's great, right? And then so that's one little power up that I get, one little boost, right? And then I meditate for it could be anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes. It's like, you know, being able to sit in silence, that's forcing myself to quote unquote slow down. That's why I have the turtle, right? I can't do anything. I stay in the present. I'm not trying to think beyond or, in the past, whatever's pissing me off, like I have to kind of let it go at the moment. Then, I'll do my quick body workout, then I'll hop on the bike, right? But these are all power ups where I'm releasing endorphins. I'm getting stronger and stronger every day. And then when the day starts, when this starts, for example, I'm ready to go. And so all these habits compound, but if you stop doing it, the compounding stops. It's like when you take money out of the market, guess what? The compounding stops. That's why time in market is greater than timing the market. I'm sure you've had many guests say something like that in the past.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk about thievery. What
What's my favorite?
thievery? What is thievery? What are you implying there?
Yeah. So thievery, I chose that word because there's cognitive dissonance when people hear that. I don't want to be a thief. I don't steal. I am completely original. We all like to think that we're original thinkers.
Right.
But the reality is to be original, you only need to be like 10 to 30% original. We're all borrowing off of concepts. So us doing a podcast, for example, is borrowed from radio, which was borrowed from something else in the past. If you look at SpaceX's rockets, fundamentally the same design, but the big difference is it comes back to Earth, right? And so if you look at this mouse right here, the final example I'll give, Steve Jobs says everything in life is a remix. They stole the mouse from Xerox. They stole the graphical user interface. Picasso said great artists steal. So you have all these great people in the world. And my point is, everything you're just iterating, right? You have a software business, you're iterating on other software business, other technologies and things like that. So there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's a reframe again. It's okay, what else can I learn? Like listening to this podcast, for example, and how can I apply it to my specific situation? Because every single person's situation is different. And how can I use it to level myself up and then again continue to reprogram myself to make myself better?
What do you do personally to filter out the noise and know what to focus on when you're trying to use something as inspiration? I guess that's the nice way of saying thievery. But and there's so much content out there. There's social media, and you just walk outside and you're being bombarded by ads, and your phone is just always lighting up and making all these sounds. So how do you determine for yourself what you should be focusing on as far as those key things that you want to use as inspiration to improve, and then what just you ignore?
Yeah, it's funny. So I have 2 Post-it notes. One is in my restroom. So when I'm brushing my teeth, I'm looking at the Post-it. So it has my goals for the year. It has business goals, health goals, personal goals, and vacation goals. And then I have one word of the year. My word of the year is harvest. So it's to not take on new projects. It's to harvest what we currently have.
Yeah,
Um, So I just try to stay focused, and I have one in front of my computer right here. I just try to stay focused on leveling up the world in the context of marketing for right now. That might expand later, but that's all we do right now. And I'm like, okay, does it fit into what I'm trying to do? If not, probably not going to listen. But if it's going to help my mindset in terms of thinking long term, investing, that type of stuff, or by the way, like when I eat lunch, sometimes I'll just watch your videos because you explain stuff so well, right? I was just watching I watched the whole thing on 1x speed. I never do that, right? And so if I feel like there's something I can learn from someone, then I'm absolutely going to just sit there and watch it. So my YouTube videos are all like, the algorithm shows real vision. It shows you. It shows me watching some StarCraft Pro matches sometimes, and it's mostly stuff like that. So.
Yeah, by the way, my videos are way better on 2x speed. Way better.
No, there's no way. I can't do it on 2x. So
okay. All right, man. Let's talk about the final chapter in the book here. I think probably sums it up, and that's playing the game of life.
yeah. So I think when you play blackjack, there's kind of a rush, especially when the count's favorable to your side. There's like a rush. It's like, oh, let's go, right?
Yeah, right.
And so same thing with poker, or same thing when I'm playing a first person shooter. And by the way, again, I don't play games anymore, but I have that rush every day when I'm waking up. And so I look at everything like a game, right? I just talked about powering up every day in the morning. And so even talking with you, it's like, oh, this thing will compound, like the hour we spend together here, it's going to compound into thousands of views, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a little game within itself. How can I go find more leverage? Okay, later I'm looking at I'm going to be doing a Clubhouse podcast recording with Neil. We just used to do this type of thing. Now we do it on Clubhouse, so we get even more leverage, right? So I'm like, how can we play the game and expand even more? And that's how I look at life right now. It's just very much, it's not a chore, because to me, life is meant to be played until just enjoy the journey and then you die. That's it. It's not, there shouldn't be an end game, right? It's not like you're playing football and there's 4 quarters and then, it's a zero sum game. There's one winner, right? And so, the way I look at it is, if you look at it as an infinite game and you look at it as you're just trying to get your you're leveling up every single day, just a little bit, then you're just going to enjoy the journey and you have fun while you're doing it. I think a lot of people, it's just like, oh, the game has to end at some point. But when you think about the long term, it forces you to think about, how do I work with people that are smart, that are long term thinkers, and people that I just like? And then you just keep repeating that.